The Future Past Tour is almost upon us. And thus we simply have no other choice but to shamelessly speculate on which songs Iron Maiden will play on this tour, and also provide an educated guess answer to the question which matters to every Iron Maiden fan.
Will you play Alexander the Great in Bergen this summer, please?
So, let's do it. When the boys first announced the Future Past Tour, pretty much every Iron Maiden fan right away picked up on the whole Cyborg's 5, Samurai's 5 score in the video. And so yeah, even today, a year later, I still believe it indicates that the band will play 5 songs from Somewhere in Time and 5 tracks from their latest studio output, Senjutsu. Yet, if we're being very honest, I'm actually 100% sure that by the time of that announcement, the boys still had no idea which songs exactly from both of those albums they will play live.
It's just outrageous.
But the truth is that Iron Maiden is one of those bands that truly listens to their fans. And so, even if we assume that those were just some random numbers in the video, which, let's be honest here, does not really sound believable.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But even if that was true, after Iron Maiden fans made such a big deal about those, I believe Iron Maiden would still tweak their setlist to give their fans exactly what they were looking for. If we take a look at the band's setlist from the past several tours, we will see that the setlist lengths varied from 15 to 17 songs on average. Yet at the same time, the average running time of an Iron Maiden show remained more or less consistent for several years. And so, given an average length of a song on both Somewhere in Time and especially on Senjutsu, I believe it is safe to assume that Iron Maiden will stick to a lower end of the spectrum and will play roughly 15 songs on an average setlist. So basically the same thing that they did on the last leg of the Legacy of the Beast tour. And now, just to be clear, this is not really because Iron Maiden don't want to play more songs, and clearly not because of the fact that the boys are getting older, because come on, all of them are in great shape. And in case you don't know, during this tour, Steve Harris will not only perform with his other band, British Lion, but will also continue playing football with his team. You know, like it's absolutely normal for when you're 67. But the reason for that will most likely be the rather strict cutoff times most of the venues Iron Maiden will play at this year imposed. And so, if this is true, then Iron Maiden will simply play 5 songs from Somewhere in Time, 5 tracks from Senjutsu, and 5 more of their most popular tunes. And here comes the most interesting part. If we take a look at all the other retrospective tours Iron Maiden did until today, we'll see that all of them started in exactly the same way the original tours did back in the 1980s. And I actually believe that the Future Past Tour will be no different. And so after the infamous UFO cry for medical attention, we'll most likely get to hear the Vangelis classic from the end titles of the original Blade Runner movie. After that, going straight into the closest thing, we get to a title track on their 1986 record. By the way, in addition to simply being a great and a very energetic opener, God Somewhere in Time is actually one of the hardest songs vocally on both of the records. And thus, knowing how much Bruce Dickinson runs around the stage during the show, it would simply be logical to perform this one alongside several other tracks right at the beginning of the setlist. Although, if we do remember the Legacy of the Beast tour, Iron Maiden somehow were able to pull off one of the hardest vocal tracks as an encore. Talking about the other 4 tracks from the album, I guess it's worth pointing out that during the original Somewhere on Tour, in addition to Quad Somewhere in Time, the band also played 5 other tracks. Well, almost 5. Those, of course, being Heaven Can Wait and Wasted Years, Stranger in a Strange Land, Sea of Madness, and once, and only once during their show in Belgrade, the band also performed The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. And during their Somewhere Back in Time tour, the band of course played Wasted Years, which, let's be honest here, is kind of a regular at most Iron Maiden setlists these days.
Yes, that's true.
And also the energetic Heaven Can Wait, which, weirdly enough, is actually the most played song from Somewhere in Time, and yes, much more so than Wasted Years, yet was last time performed all the way back in 2008. But given the fact that the Future Past Tour is pretty much the band's answer to our plea to finally give credit to the most overlooked 1980s album by the band, I hope that the boys will go with only one of those two songs, and namely Heaven Can Wait. And instead of Wasted Years, they would rather do a live debut of Deja Vu, which if you think about it would make a lot of sense, because A, it is the shortest track on Somewhere in Time, and B, well, it has a kick-ass sing-along chorus which has never been performed live. Another song which I absolutely hope that the band will perform instead of their Somewhere in Time single Wasted Years is the band's another single from the same album, Stranger in a Strange Land, which in my humble opinion is one of the greatest songs the band has ever written, and I believe it is simply a crime against humanity that this track has not been played live for 36 years. Which leaves us with just one more spot from Somewhere in Time. And thus comes the time to answer the question we all are longing to get the answer to.
Will this summer finally hear Alexander the Great?
Yes. Make me believe it! Yes! Yes! Yes!
And so, in my personal opinion, yes, Iron Maiden will finally play Alexander the Great on stage.
Yeah!
And even more, can you imagine how insane the crowd will go if Iron Maiden will play Alexander the Great as an encore? Because in my personal opinion, it actually makes a lot of sense. Because A, it has that long, enchanted and a very epic intro, which if needed could also be played on tape before the full band kicks in. B, it is one of the most epic and most dynamic songs on this record. And thus, in addition to simply being a great surprise, it would also help the band build back the dynamics and the energy flow for the final part of the show. And C, well, even though on the final track from Somewhere in Time, Bruce Dickinson of course showcases his extraordinary skills, it is actually not the hardest track in terms of breathing for a vocalist like Bruce Dickinson. And especially after last year's tour, I am absolutely confident that the band can actually pull it off towards the end of the show.
We can't let them take anymore. Alexander the Great!
But weirdly enough, Alexander the Great is actually not the track which I am most excited for the band to play live on this tour.
What?
You see, back in 1986 and 1987, after playing Power Slave, guitarist Dave Murray and Adrian Smith would be the only people left on stage to perform a guitar solo which many fans later on deemed Walking on Glass, which in reality is loosely based on the tune called Walking in the Air. And this guitar solo, in my opinion, was one of the highlights of Somewhere on Tour. And given the fact that that tour was not caught on video, I would absolutely love for Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, and Yannick Gers to perform something similar this time around. Especially since I'm 100% sure that this time this tour will be very well documented. Talking about the band's latest album, Senjutsu, I think that this time around the band will drop the title track, yet at the same time might continue performing Stratega simply because of the amazing response this track has gotten last time from the crowds all across the globe. And you know, when the Future Past Tour was just announced, I actually said in the video that I do not see Wasted Years and The Writing on the Wall being played together on one setlist. And so if the band will actually sacrifice Wasted Years, then I guess we will get to hear The Writing on the Wall one more time. As I actually still do not see how both of those tracks could be organically included on one setlist, and not really because those songs are similar, not at all, but rather because both of them with a catchy sing-along chorus actually serve the same purpose on an Iron Maiden show. In addition, I still believe that the band will definitely play Death of the Calots on this tour, as it is one of those longer tracks on Senjutsu which will definitely not feel overstretched and has just the right amount of energy and tempo shifts to keep thousands of heavy metal fans engaged and involved during its more than 10-minute run.
Lord above, my spirit says, death is not proud, no more, no less.
In addition to that, I guess the band kind of has to play Days of Future Past because A, it is the shortest track on Senjutsu and it would simply make a lot of sense to include it among the other longer tracks. B, it has a great and a very catchy chorus, and C, well, it kind of is in the tour's title. Even more, I actually think it would make a lot of sense to play Days of Future Past right after Caught Somewhere in Time in the beginning of the setlist to kind of introduce this tour. And just as they did during their Legacy of the Beast tour, to play a shorter and more catchier track right after a longer epic. Knowing the band's tradition to underline the current events which are going on around the world, I think, or rather hope, that Iron Maiden will include a track which resonates quite a lot with what I personally feel today, that one being The Darkest Hour. And here I just wanted to point out that such songs as Darkest Hour and Hell on Earth are actually some of those tracks which help me personally, and I know for a fact many Ukrainian metalheads go through what we are experiencing today and keep ourselves sane with the power of heavy metal amidst the war. And of course you all know that I and thousands of Ukrainian Iron Maiden fans were not able to go to the show in Kyiv last year on the Legacy of the Beast tour, although I still have my tickets on me actually. And it looks like I'm still missing at least the European leg of the Future Past tour. But I just wanted to thank you guys all for all the amazing support you're showing to me, this show, and Ukraine through this very, very difficult time. And especially since so many of you are actually going to be attending those shows in Metal Pilgrimage. Just know that your support means the world to me and all Ukrainian metalheads. And in terms of the last, fifth song from Senjutsu, I guess the band could play Lost in a Lost World. And here's the thing, not really because this track is special in any way, or is significantly stronger than, let's say, the Time Machine or the Parchment, but simply because if everything else we've said in this video and all of the songs we've already chosen will make it in the setlist, then this song would be a perfect fit for the overall mood of such concert. Yet, if we're being very honest, when it comes to the songs from Senjutsu, all of it is just a gamble, and the band can actually go with either 5 of those. In terms of the other 5, I guess most likely the band will go for their most popular and radio-friendly tunes, you know, such as this one. But at the same time, this year marks the 40th anniversary of the band's legendary 4th studio album, Peace of Mind. And although yes, it is true that during their Legacy of the Beast tour, they did honor this record quite substantially, at the same time there still remains 2 tracks from this album which they have never played live. Those being Quest for Fire, which, let's be honest here, I don't really care that much about.
So do all who live to see such times.
And also Sun and Steel, which happens to be the shortest track on this record. And although I totally understand that it is very unlikely, but I would absolutely love if they would trade one of their most popular songs, you know, like The Trooper, for the track which was up until today recognized only in the form of a tasty beverage. And also another thing, although Legacy of the Beast tour of course was meant to cover the entire Iron Maiden's career, the boys did not cover much material from the band's post-reunion catalog. You know, namely such albums as Dance of Death and The Final Frontier were absolutely ignored.
Why, God, why?
And I guess in order to bring some justice to those 2 records, the band could play at least a couple of tracks from each of those 2. And especially since the whole theme of The Final Frontier, which by the way is the most overlooked Iron Maiden album, fits quite well with the futuristic time travel story. And of course another album, the songs from which did not make it on the Legacy of the Beast tour, is the band's sophomore record, Killers. Ironically enough, only one song from which was played during their Somewhere on Tour run back in 86-87, and which was dropped after only 10 shows.
It cannot be.
So I guess in order to give some justice to Killers, Iron Maiden might reintroduce the song Wrathchild on the Future Past tour. And although the only guaranteed spot, I guess, is reserved for the song Iron Maiden, because let's be honest here, it's been kind of hard to imagine an Iron Maiden show without the song Iron Maiden since about 1976.
Exactly.
The band might also have to play The Number of the Beast or Hallowed Be Thy Name and The Trooper just to be able to lure in newer fans who have never seen Iron Maiden live and who would most likely not purchase tickets to see a setlist of what they consider to be deep cuts, which I, to be honest with you, would absolutely love. But anyways, these are the songs that I think that the band will most likely play on this tour, although they are actually quite different from the list of the songs which I would absolutely kill for to hear live. But what I actually want the most is to make a complete fool of myself and for the band to surprise me on the Future Past tour, playing a completely different and unexpected set of songs. But one thing is absolutely clear, that if you guys have a chance to witness the Future Past tour and you're still contemplating whether you should or should not do it, just do it. And the truth is that I truly hope that I will get to witness it at least somewhere this year. But anyways, which songs do you personally think Iron Maiden will surprise us with? And are you planning to see the Future Past tour or not? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. And just a quick reminder that only about 30% of the people who are watching my videos are actually subscribed to the Metal Pilgrim channel. So if you do enjoy our Up the Irons or Defenders of the Faith or any other of the series, please consider subscribing right now. We'll prevail. Slava Ukraini!